Most people think super empaths forgive everything. They don't. They can forgive and still never let you back in, because once you cross one specific line, something flips inside them and you won't even hear it flip. No big fight, no dramatic goodbye, just silence. You'll get erased. And that's what terrifies people the most. Not anger, not conflict, not punishment. The moment you realize you no longer exist in their inner world. Here's the part nobody sees coming. The line is invisible. Most people cross it smiling. They think everything is fine. They think the empath will get over it. Like always, they mistake patience for weakness. They mistake kindness for consent. Then one day, the warmth is gone. The light in their eyes doesn't reach you anymore. The replies get shorter. The energy disappears. And you're standing in front of a door that's already locked, trying to remember when it closed. In a minute, I'll name the exact emotional mistake that triggers this in plain English. But first, listen closely. Super empaths don't warn you because they're still hoping you'll prove them wrong. And after the storm, something else begins. Quiet, almost holy. There's a version of you that used to explain, and a version that doesn't anymore. That's not coldness, that's maturity. Jung had a word for it. The moment the shadow stops being suppressed and becomes protection. And the trigger? It isn't an insult, it isn't a fight, it's something quieter, worse. A super empath isn't the nice one. They're not the soft one, not the person you can disappoint forever and still keep in your corner. That's the myth. A super empath is a pattern reader. They don't just hear what you say, they hear what you mean. They watch what you do when you think nobody's paying attention. The tone shift, the smile that doesn't reach your eyes, the way your story changes depending on who's in the room. And here's what makes them different from most people. They don't collect memories, they collect evidence. So while you're thinking, it's not a big deal, they're thinking, that's the third time the details didn't match. While you're thinking, they're being dramatic, they're thinking, that apology is copy-paste, and the behavior didn't move an inch. You've seen it in the small moments. A text message that says, you're overthinking, not, help me understand, not, I'm sorry that hurt you. Just a quick little line designed to shrink your reality and make you doubt what you felt. Or the promise that keeps getting delayed. First time, life happens. Second time, maybe. Third time, now we're not in the land of accidents anymore. We're in the land of patterns. And super empaths live in patterns. They notice how someone can swear they respect boundaries and then step over them the second they want something. They notice how someone can apologize with perfect words, but somehow never change the one thing that actually matters. And that's why they're so dangerous to the wrong person. Not because they're cruel, because they're accurate. They're not paranoid. They're trained. Trained by repetition. Trained by betrayal. Trained by years of having their sensitivity used against them until their sensitivity evolved into perception. And they don't argue, they archive. They keep a quiet internal record of what you say, what you do, what you deny, what you twist, and what you consistently avoid taking responsibility for. They'll still laugh with you, still show up, still give you chances, but inside the file is growing. And here's the part people don't understand. Super empaths don't leave when it hurts. They leave when it stops making sense. They don't explode on the first red flag. That's what confuses people. Because a super empath doesn't react the way most people react. They don't argue, they don't rant, they don't even look angry, they go quiet. And while you're assuming we're fine, they're doing something else. They're building a file, a silent record, a mental archive that keeps track of one thing only. Does your behavior match your words? Every broken promise goes in the file. Every time you shift the story, file. Yesterday you said one thing. Today it's a different version. Tomorrow it's somehow your fault for misunderstanding. The facts keep sliding like the truth is made of soap. And the scariest part is They don't call you out immediately because they're still hoping they're wrong. They want you to be better than the pattern. They want the inconsistency to be a mistake, not your personality. They want the apology to mean growth, not strategy. So they give you chances you didn't earn yet. They wait longer than they should. They rewrite the story in your favor because their empathy keeps trying to save the connection. This is why people misread them. They think silence means ignorance. It doesn't. Silence means evaluation. A super empath is always asking one quiet question under everything. Is it safe to trust you? And the file exists for one reason, to answer that question honestly, when the heart is still tempted to lie, because empathy can forgive almost anything, but it cannot survive repeated betrayal of reality. That hope, the hope that you'll prove them wrong, is the last light. And when you kill that light, that's when the door slam begins. The one emotional mistake super empaths almost never forgive. It's not a harsh word, it's not one bad argument, it's not even a single lie. It's systematically violating authentic trust by making them doubt their own reality. In normal language, you make them question their gut, you make them feel crazy for noticing. That's the line. And it's invisible because it doesn't look violent. It looks like a comment, a shrug, a little joke, a tiny correction. But over time, it becomes psychological poison. And this is why super empaths don't just feel hurt, they feel something worse, unstable inside themselves, because their gift is perception. Their nervous system is tuned to nuance. Their intuition is a compass. So when you keep telling them the compass is broken, you're not just hurting their feelings, you're asking them to abandon the one thing that keeps them safe. And that's why the unforgivable part isn't the lie. The unforgivable part is making them betray themselves to stay with you. At first, they try to fix it. They explain more clearly, they choose softer words, they give you the benefit of the doubt. They recheck their own memory like a courtroom witness who's starting to tremble. But eventually something inside them refuses, not loudly, not dramatically. It's more like a switch, a quiet internal decision that says, I will not go blind for you. And when that happens, something in them wakes up. Jung had a name for that part, the part that stops pleading and starts protecting. He called it the shadow. From a Jungian lens, this is where people misunderstand super empaths the most. They think the empath turned cold. They think it's cruelty. But Jung would call it something else, integration, because the nice empath you've known is often only half of the psyche showing. The half that learned, usually early, that love means being accommodating, that safety means keeping the peace, that being a good person means swallowing anger before it can be seen. Jung called the parts we push down the shadow not evil, not bad, just everything you were taught to hide in order to stay accepted. Anger, detachment, self-protection, the ability to say no, the ability to walk away without begging for closure, the part of you that can cut a cord and not bleed out trying to prove your worth. Empaths often bury that part deeper than anyone because they hate the idea of causing pain. They'll take the discomfort instead. They'll overgive. They'll keep the relationship alive by spending themselves like currency until you attack the one thing they live by, their perception, their gut. When you repeatedly make them doubt what they feel, what they saw, what they know, something shifts, not on the surface, inside, quietly, like a lock turning. It's the moment the empath realizes, if I stay connected to you, I have to disconnect from myself. And their psyche refuses to pay that price anymore. Jung believed growth isn't becoming more light. Growth is becoming whole. It's letting the gentle parts and the protective parts stand in the same room without one being ashamed of the other. So when the shadow integrates, the empath doesn't become mean. They become accurate. They stop negotiating with reality. They stop editing their intuition to make you more comfortable. They stop translating your behavior into excuses just so the relationship can survive. And this is why it feels so final when it happens, because you're no longer dealing with their hope, you're dealing with their wholeness. Hope is flexible. Hope can be manipulated. Hope keeps saying, maybe next time. Integrated shadow doesn't do maybe with safety. It doesn't chase. It doesn't argue for basic respect. It doesn't keep inviting confusion back into the house. It protects the inner world like something sacred, because now the empath understands peace is not a luxury, it's a requirement. And if you've ever watched someone go from warm to neutral without a fight, this is what you were witnessing. Not hatred, not revenge, a nervous system choosing survival. Now I'm going to show you the 3 stages right before the door slam, so you can recognize it in real time, before you mistake their silence for everything's fine. Because the door slam doesn't happen out of nowhere. It has a runway. And if you know what to look for, you can recognize the moment you're no longer in a relationship. You're in a countdown. There are 3 stages. Stage 1, the quiet test. This is where most people fail because it looks harmless. A super empath doesn't come at you with accusations. They won't start with, "You always do this." They'll start small, almost gentle. They'll ask a simple question like, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" Or, "Can we talk about what happened yesterday?" They're not trying to win. They're checking something. Do you respect their emotional reality, or do you defend your ego because your response tells them everything? If you say, "I hear you," even if it's uncomfortable, the door stays open. But if you go straight to "you're overreacting," or "here we go again," or you turn it into a debate about facts while ignoring the feeling underneath, the test has an answer, and the answer is not safe. Stage 1 is quiet because they're still hoping you'll show maturity. They're still giving the benefit of the doubt. They're still leaving room for you to rise. Stage 2, the emotional withdrawal. If stage 1 fails, they don't yell louder, they get lighter, not in a happy way, in a disappearing way. You notice it in the tiny math of effort. They text less, they initiate less. The warmth fades, the curiosity about your day goes missing. The way they used to lean into the connection stops. And the weird part is, they're still there. They still respond, they still show up. They might even smile, but you're talking to them without reaching them. That's the feeling, like you're speaking into a room where the furniture is the same, but the soul has moved out. This is where people make a fatal mistake. They treat the withdrawal like a mood. They think they're just stressed. They think they'll get over it. Give it time. But for a super empath, withdrawal isn't a phase. It's a boundary forming in real time. They're not punishing you. They're protecting themselves from the confusion you keep bringing. Stage 3, the final freeze. This is the stage people call cold, but it's not rage, it's not bitterness, it's finality. They become polite, clean, minimal, no extra words, no emotional spice, no invitation. They answer like customer service. Okay, got it. No worries. And if you try to pull them back with intensity, big speeches, big promises, dramatic apologies, it doesn't land because you're trying to repair something with emotion that broke because of reality. They're present, but you're already gone. This is when the super empath has accepted one brutal truth. Staying connected to you requires them to betray themselves, so they stop doing it. That's the core line you need to remember. They don't punish you, they stop investing in you. And once investment stops, the connection doesn't collapse loudly. It simply ends quietly, like a light switched off in another room. Now here's the question everyone asks at this point. If they're so sensitive, why don't apologies work after the freeze, even if they still forgive you? This is the part most people can't accept. They hear forgiveness and assume it means access again. It doesn't. Forgiveness is internal. It's what happens inside the super empath when they finally stop carrying anger like a second job. It's the moment their nervous system exhales and says, "I'm done fighting reality." Reconnection is different. Reconnection is relational. It requires safety, consistency, truth that holds up under pressure. And once the door slam happens, the super empath has already reached a conclusion. You're not safe for their inner world. So yes, they might forgive you fully, quietly, even sincerely, but they will wish you well from far away. Because here's the viral truth people hate. They forgive you the moment you stop being their problem. When they detach, you're no longer a person they're trying to fix, understand, save, or decode. You become something else. A lesson, a boundary, a closed door. And that's why the aftermath tactics don't work. People come back with guilt. After everything I've done for you, they come back with memories. Remember the good times? They come back with promises. I've changed, I swear. Sometimes they come back with smear campaigns trying to make the empath look cruel so they can feel innocent again. None of it lands anymore, not because the empath is heartless, because the empath is no longer emotionally invested in the story. They're not arguing with your version of events. They're not trying to prove anything. They're not trying to be understood. They already paid the price of misunderstanding themselves long enough. This is what people miss. The super empath doesn't move on after the door slam. They moved on before it. They grieved quietly while they were still next to you. They accepted the pattern while you were still denying it. They let the fantasy die while you were still enjoying it. So when you show up with tears and speeches, you're late, and the calm you're seeing isn't indifference, because they never cared. It's indifference because they cared too much for too long. Now, if you're a super empath watching this, listen carefully. There's one thing you must never do after the switch flips, and it's the reason so many people relapse, reopen the door, and end up back in the same reality-distorting cycle again. After the switch flips, your biggest danger isn't them, it's you. It's the part of you that wants to go back. Not because you miss them, but because your nervous system hates unfinished stories, because your heart wants a clean ending, because your empathy keeps whispering, maybe I can make them see. That's the relapse trap. You go back to prove your point. You go back because they finally understand. But here's what's really happening. You're offering your reality back to the same hands that kept trying to bend it. You're stepping into the same maze, hoping it will suddenly become a straight line. It won't. From a Jungian lens, this is where individuation becomes real. Individuation isn't becoming nicer. It's becoming whole. It's choosing truth over the role you learn to survive with. For many super empaths, that role is the rescuer, the emotional nurse, the one who turns chaos into meaning so other people don't have to. But your job isn't to make them understand. Your job is to stay aligned with what you know. If you saw the pattern clearly enough to walk away, you saw it clearly enough to stay away. And if you're waiting for the perfect conversation that will close the chapter, let this be the sentence that frees you. Closure is not a conversation. Closure is a decision. You don't need one more message to confirm what your body already learned. You don't need one more apology to validate what the pattern already proved. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because for you, it is. And if this hits something in you, hit like, quietly, not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, just to mark the moment you chose yourself, because that moment is sacred.